You're watching Cape Media News, brought to you by Cape Media Center.
Tonight on Cape Media News, locals stand out for detained Tufts PhD student.
Plus, AWSC updates their White Shark catalog.
And later, a recap of this week in sports.
These stories and more are coming up next on Cape Media News.
Good evening and welcome to Cape Media News, your source for hyperlocal news that matters. I'm Jamie Horton.
And I'm Rick Kuntz. Last week, plainclothes ICE agents detained Tufts University PhD student Rumeysa Öztürk outside of her home in Somerville. Federal officials say Öztürk, a Turkish national, had her visa revoked in response to an op-ed she co-authored last year urging the school president to divest from Israeli companies in connection with the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Over the weekend, members from Mid-Cape Indivisible gathered outside Cape Cod Mall to voice their support for Rumeysa and to call for her release. News director Mitch Suck has more.
On Saturday, nearly 50 Cape Cod residents gathered in Hyannis to protest the recent detention of Rumeysa Öztürk, a Turkish PhD student studying at Tufts University. Öztürk was detained by plainclothes immigration and customs enforcement agents outside her home in Somerville last week, an incident protesters are describing as an abduction.
The police, where the police? The police.
Yeah, you don't look like it. Why are you hiding your face? Why are you hiding your face?
Protesters say this detention is one of many similar cases happening nationwide, linked to political expression about the conflict in Gaza.
There was a graduate student at Tufts University who was here as a Fulbright scholar, and she apparently wrote or contributed to an op-ed that was critical of Israel and what's going on in Gaza. And apparently the United States revoked her visa without telling her, and then shortly after that they arrested her on the street for being here quote-unquote illegally, even though she didn't know her visa was revoked. And her main sin, according to them, was voicing her opinion in a newspaper op-ed.
ICE detained Öztürk over the cancellation of her visa, allegedly due to her involvement in writing an op-ed in the school's paper criticizing Israel's actions in Gaza, a move activists are calling a violation of freedom of speech.
Our rights in this country are directly linked to the rights of Palestinians that are being trampled in Israel and Palestine. And these two issues are deeply connected, because why people are being stifled in this country when they speak against Palestine is because Israel has influence, and any opinion critical of Israel is harshly suppressed.
In a report from the Associated Press, friends of Rumeysa say she was minimally involved in any of the campus protests last year. One remarked that the only organizing they could remember her doing was a Thanksgiving potluck.
I think it's easy to compartmentalize and categorize people, and we can put her in a box over there because I'm over here and I'm safe. Until someone says you're not a citizen, or until someone says you're doing something that's disruptive to the government, and then suddenly you're going from the frying pan into the fire.
Local activists want to emphasize that this isn't just a distant national issue. It's a personal matter for many on Cape Cod.
So many people we know that are from this area that are affected. I have friends whose family members are in Gaza who they don't know whether they're dead or alive. So it's all, very local. There is no, it's a short line between our rights and the rights of Palestinians.
Federal officials have provided little public justification for the detentions and have reportedly ignored court orders to halt the relocation of detainees. Rumeysa was swiftly moved to an immigrant detention center in Louisiana, complicating her access to legal representation.
I feel like it's a very slippery slope, and no one is actually safe because they're coming at anyone who they consider a threat or anyone who they consider as being counter to their narrative. I'm a writer and I'm an educator, and the thought that people cannot voice their opinion if it somehow disagrees with the US government or President Trump's friends and allies is outrageous, and I think every American should be disgusted by that.
ICE officials have yet to respond directly to specific allegations but cite national security in general statements about recent detentions. Despite risks, Cape Cod residents encourage others to stand up for human rights and freedom of speech.
I think the more people who are out here from all walks of life and all ages, it's going to shift public opinion, it's going to mobilize people, and that's what we need to fight what's happening right now.
Speak up, stand up, resist, because if you don't, you are not going to recognize the country we live in. It will be no different than any other fascist state. It is already becoming one. Please, come out, stand up.
For Cape Media News, I'm Mitch Sock.
The Barnstable Police Department and the Highway Safety Division are hosting a child passenger safety event on April 10th. From 3 to 5 p.m. at the Barnstable Police Department, learn about car seat safety for children based on age, weight, height, and vehicle safety seat specifications. Car seat technicians will be on site to inspect your car seat or teach you how to properly install your child's car seat. This event is free and open to the public.
Cape Cod veterans are invited to discover valuable resources at the Veterans Resource Fair hosted by the Cape and Islands Veterans Outreach Center. On April 24th from 11 to 2 p.m., visit the community college to check out information from the Providence VA Benefits Office, Cape Cod Vet Center, Heroes in Transition, CVOC, and more. Don't miss this opportunity to connect with other local veterans and local organizations.
Attention, high school seniors, it's scholarship season. This year, the Centerville Civic Association is offering a scholarship for one high school senior. The student must be a graduating senior in good academic standing who resides in Centerville. The scholarship may be applied to expenses at a 2- or 4-year institution, vocational school, or formal apprentice program. The deadline to submit is April 15th. Email info@centervillecivic@gmail.com for more information.
And the Cape and Islands Veterans Outreach Center is offering scholarships of $1,000 to 5 high school seniors. To be eligible, students must have a parent or grandparent who is a veteran. The deadline for the application is this Monday, April 7th. Visit capeveterans.com to learn more.
The Barnstable Fire Department has updates on their West Barnstable Fire Station project. Currently, the construction document phase is 60% complete. A number of public outreach sessions will be held in April and May to share more information about the project and receive feedback. The meetings will feature presentations from fire department staff, the project manager, architects, and the construction manager. April meetings will be held on the 24th at 7 p.m. and 26th at 1 p.m., both at the current fire station on 6A in West Barnstable.
Coming up after the break, meeting recaps and more. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Cape Media News.
With Harwich, Chatham, Dennis, and Yarmouth holding select board meetings this week, there's a lot to get through, so let's jump right into it.
In Harwich this week, the meeting began with the board entering executive session to discuss potential litigation and collective bargaining. No votes were taken during that session, and they reconvened in open session around 6 p.m. During staff updates, the Youth and Family Services Director announced that upcoming programs, including a social skills club for young adults on the autism spectrum, and the Community Center Director shared details about April events, such as a free pasta dinner and adult prom night. Public comment featured residents concerned about a proposed $10,000 donation for rebuilding stairs at Jenkins Beach. They urged the board to wait for the Conservation Commission review before accepting the funds. Another speaker voiced frustration with the decision by Monomoy Regional School District to reduce Harwich's integrated preschool sessions from 4 to 3. The board approved the town's $48.13 million operating budget after adjusting local receipt projections. They also accepted and adopted a revised Monomoy school budget, which included $400,000 in reductions. Meanwhile, the middle school siding project article was indefinitely postponed, pending further information. Finally, the board withdrew a revolving funds article because new state regulations mean no vote is necessary unless changes are proposed. The meeting concluded with announcements of new hires in the clerk's office, building department, and health department. First on the agenda in Chatham this week, a proposal from Eversource Energy to install conduit on Cross Street was withdrawn. Concerns about a road moratorium and an existing gas main prompted the company to pursue a revised plan. Next, representatives from the Homeless Prevention Council secured approval for their annual Walk for Home set for June 21st. The walk will start at St. Christopher's Church at 9 a.m. to raise funds and awareness for housing insecurity. The board then granted a one-day alcohol permit for the Cape Cod Commercial Fishermen's Alliance for an upcoming Meet the Fleet event on April 16th. This will feature a short reception followed by a community presentation. Another highlight was the presentation by the Cape Cod Aqua Fund. Administered by Barnstable County, the program provides low-interest loans to homeowners for septic repairs, system upgrades, and sewer connections. Board members also renewed the intermunicipal agreement with Orleans for managing Nauset Beach, praising its effectiveness and making minor language updates. Lastly, they discussed re-energizing the Economic Development Advisory Committee to focus on bolstering year-round economic opportunities. The board also confirmed plans for upcoming committee reappointments, aiming to streamline the interview process. Over in Yarmouth, the evening began with a few announcements, including a reminder that Town Cleanup Day is scheduled for April 12th. Volunteers will be provided with supplies and are encouraged to bring a sandwich for a post-cleanup gathering at Town Hall. The board also heard about upcoming designs for a Revolutionary War monument and asked for public input on those plans. A special moment followed with recognition of two long-serving town employees. David Morin retired from the Department of Public Works after 29 years, and Lieutenant Michael Bryant stepped down from the police department after 34 years of service. Both were commended for their dedication and commitment to the town. The police chief then introduced two promotions. Diana Wells was sworn in as a new police lieutenant, and Connor Burnham took the oath as sergeant. On the financial side, the board discussed possible increases to non-resident disposal sticker fees, beach parking fees, and water rates, citing rising operating costs and capital improvements. They also approved the sale of a $16 million bond anticipation note at a 4% interest rate. Lastly, the board announced an upcoming housing workshop on April 22nd, which will bring together various committees and stakeholders to address Yarmouth's housing needs. And lastly, in Dennis this week, the session began with public announcements on upcoming street sweeping, a rabies vaccination clinic, and Chapter 90 road funding for local road and bridge projects. The town administrator then provided updates about expanded beach sticker sales and seasonal hiring opportunities. Next, the board held a public hearing for Tea Breezy LLC, doing business as Terry Brennan's Central Tavern at 50 Route 134. After a brief discussion, members unanimously approved an annual all-alcohol license as well as weekday and Sunday entertainment licenses with specified conditions and hours. Several establishments in town then received renewals for seasonal liquor and entertainment licenses following routine departmental reviews. Moving on, representatives from Forward at the Rock requested an early release of CPC funds for their Phase 2 housing project, which aims to serve adults with developmental disabilities. The board endorsed a revised grant agreement enabling partial funding to begin site work. The board also heard from YMCA Cape Cod leaders who presented updates on survey findings and potential site models for a new facility in Dennis. Members then approved two MVP grant applications, one for environmental improvements at Pound Pond and Seaview Park, and another for upgrades at Sassuat Harbor, before awarding a drainage construction contract. Finally, the meeting concluded with a discussion of preliminary plans for a future park at 187 Upper County Road and a review of upcoming town meeting articles. And that's it for this week. For Cape Media News, I'm Mitch Sock.
Coming up after the break, sports and more.
Welcome back to Cape Media News. The Atlantic White Shark Conservancy has updated their white shark catalog with data from the 2024 season. This update includes 29 new individuals encountered from Canada to Florida in 2024, thanks to collaborations with Canadian researchers and numerous fishers and divers who reported sightings to AWSC for identification. The catalog is the most comprehensive source of photos and information on individual white sharks that have been identified along the Atlantic coast. To date, AWSC has identified more than 700 white sharks since it began monitoring the population in 2014, making it one of the largest photo ID databases of individual white sharks worldwide.
The White Shark Catalog is our catalog of all of our individual white sharks that we have observed so far. And it's comprised of all their different features, and you can click on it through the White Shark logbook and see all of our sharks. It's important because we can observe all the sharks over the course of many years. We could see how they have grown. We could see any seal interactions that they have had in the form of seal scratches, and we could see their movement and observe their population. Not all white sharks look the same. What we look at is their back fin, their caudal fin, and any white markings that they have on that fin. We look at their dorsal fin, which is their top fin, any white markings on the dorsal fin, and also the trailing edge, which is the back notches of that fin. Those are very unique for each white shark. We also look at the counter shading, the gray and white coloration between, and that pattern is very unique. We look at the pelvic fin, which is related to that counter shading, and we also look at the gills, any white markings and gray markings on the gill slits. Danny is really unique. He has unique caudals. One of his caudals has a white marking on it. Danny has a really unique caudal eyelet, so he's very easy to identify. We first observed Danny in 2014, and we've seen him come back to Cape Cod every year since. So he's a shark that we've seen grow, which is really cool, and just observe throughout the summer. Sometimes we only get partial shots of different features, so maybe a swipe of part of a caudal fin, the tail fin, and nothing else. So sometimes that can be very hard. We just get all the footage that we can and compile it in our catalog and use all the footage that we can to identify sharks. Cape Cod sometimes has really bad water quality, so trying to see specific features of white sharks underwater could be hard through Cape Cod.
Last week, over 65 participants attended a hybrid tabletop exercise to address a hypothetical measles outbreak on the Cape and Islands. This exercise, held at the Barnstable County Complex, was facilitated by Emergency Preparedness Director Chip Riley and public health professional Lisa Crowner. The majority of participants were local public health officials representing Cape Cod's 15 towns, plus Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard.
Objectives for this exercise included identifying regional risks associated with infectious disease outbreaks, identifying gaps in response plans, and developing strategies to address structural health disparities. The discussion-based scenarios focused on epidemiological response, vaccination needs, public communication, resource coordination, and health equity.
The town of Barnstable is currently working to update Barnstable's local comprehensive plan. The LCP is a long-term vision and growth policy that will guide Barnstable's future over the next 10 years. Town staff and LCP committee invite the public to attend one of the upcoming community meetings, which will include an overview of the draft followed by an open house.
The two meetings this month will be on April 15th at 6 p.m. at the West Barnstable Community Building and April 30th at Liberty Hall in Marston Mills. The public comment period for the LCP is open until May 11th, and comments will be distributed to the committee for review. The full draft plan is available on the local comprehensive plan website at barnstablelcp.com.
Local nonprofit Cape Cod Young Professionals is hosting their annual Shape the Cape Summit next Wednesday, the 9th, at the Emerald Resort in Hyannis. Tickets are still available for this day-long celebration of local collaboration and community. This year, the summit features 6 sessions throughout the day, with 4 presentations happening concurrently during each session.
With a total of 24 presentations covering many different topics, you can pick and choose presentations that are relevant to you. Titles include Making a Career Pivot, How to Make Networking Not Weird, Elevating Your Social Media, and Growing Your Own Food. To view the full schedule, visit ccyp.org.
On Wednesday, just after 9 p.m., Yarmouth Police and Fire responded to a motor vehicle accident near North Dennis Road and Great Western Road. According to multiple eyewitnesses, a young male driver struck a guardrail before exiting the vehicle and running into a nearby neighborhood.
I was in my house in my bathroom, and all of a sudden I heard a huge boom noise, and my mom was like, "Oh my God, I think there was an accident." So we ran right outside. She beat me.
There was a truck over here. He was parked. I think he was trying to help him find out what was going on. And then when I got up to the car, this area here, the kid came out. He was pretty close to me, pretty close as much as Angelina. And he's like, I'm just so stressed, I'm so stressed, I'm so stressed. I was surprised to find out that he was under the influence because I didn't smell it on him. But Angelina heard him yelling down the street.
Rolled down the road, yelling to someone on the phone, I'm so drunk, I'm gonna end my life, and ran down the road.
Officers located the individual in a nearby yard and took him into custody, and was later transported by Yarmouth Fire to Cape Cod Hospital. A section of North Dennis Road was temporarily closed between Flat Rock Way and Great Western Road, while the Barnstable County Sheriff's Department Crime Scene Unit assisted with photographing the scene. The vehicle was later towed, and the roadway has since reopened. The cause of the accident remains under investigation by the Yarmouth Police Department.
And lastly this evening, to Ryan Downs with a recap of This Week in Sports.
Welcome back to the Cape Media News Sports segment. I'm your host and local sports guy, Ryan Downs. Spring sports have officially started, so let's take a look at our teams and see what's in store for them this season. Last Friday, the 28th, was the official start to the spring season, and the Barnstable baseball team faced off against Tantasquah. It got off to a rocky start as Tantasquah came to play and was ripping the ball. One thing led to another, and all of a sudden it was 5-0 at the bottom of the second inning, and Barnstable found themselves in a hole they had to dig themselves out of. Then, by the bottom of the fourth, it was 8-0, and Barnstable bats started to come alive. They salvaged 3 runs to bring it to 8-3. Jake Cross led offensively as he went 1 for 2 at the plate with an RBI double and a scored run. And Eric Stanley went 1 for 1 at the plate with a run scored and a stolen base. But Tantasquah had other ideas. Tantasquah came back out in the top of the 5th and had disciplined, patient at-bats, working the count and putting runners on and being aggressive to get those runners into scoring position. It was like they were in mid-season form already. They extended their lead to 14-3, then went out on defense and shut down the Redhawks to take the first game of the year. Just a quick update on how other teams are shaping up in the first week of competition. Barnstable baseball is currently 1-1. They've had 1 game suspended due to lack of sunlight, and they start a game today at 4 p.m. at Bridgewater Raynham. Next Wednesday, they'll take on DY at Red Wilson Field. DY baseball crushed Tantasquah last Saturday for their first game of the year with a 9-0 victory. They also had a game suspended due to lack of sunlight. They also have a wicked busy week next week with 4 games. And Monomoy has only had 1 game so far, and it was suspended due to lack of sunlight just like the others. They traveled to Bourne today for a 3:45 start time in hopes to get the game done. And then we got softball. Barnstable had an incredible season debut as they took down Nantucket 14-12. Madison Flynn pitched a complete game and racked up 14 strikeouts. However, their next 2 games have resulted in a 1-15 loss and a 5-21 loss, bringing their record to 1-2. They started at 3:30 today at Upper Cape Tech in hopes to get back to 500. DY also had a fantastic debut as they traveled to Martha's Vineyard and came back with a 22-3 victory. Today they're at Sandwich for a game that started at 3:30. And last but not least, Monomoy softball. Just like the others, they got out to a great start this season, winning their first game with a final score of 16-1. They host Bourne today and travel to take on Sturgis East next week. We also got another esports update. As we said last week, this week was the final regular season matchup for the 7th-ranked DY Varsity Smash team, who took on the 9th-ranked Sutton High School team. With a 2-1 game score in the first series, DY took a 1-0 lead. The second series, DY took 2-0, giving them a series score of 2-0. But unfortunately, things only went downhill from there. The next 2 series resulted in Sutton winning 4 straight games to tie the series score at 2-2. In the 5th and final set, Sutton had all the momentum and they ripped off another 2-0 sweep, going on a 6-0 run to claim the match 3-2. With the loss, DY moved down to the 10th seed and Sutton moved into our 7th seed, which would mean If nothing else changes in the top 16 between now and next Wednesday, DY and Sutton will face off again. Only this time, it'll be in the first round of the playoffs. And that's it for this week's Sports Update. Back to you, Jamie and Rick.
Thanks, Ryan. The town of Dennis has been getting ready for their annual Easter egg hunt with a video featuring a very special guest.
Thank you everyone for coming. We've been running a little bit dry on ideas for this year's Easter hunt video. And we just thought maybe a little brainstorming session would be great. Big Guy's got a few ideas that he wanted to run past us all, so I think that maybe we'll listen to what he has to say first. Yes, Eric.
Why am I here? I'm in IT.
Let's hold questions for afterwards. Let's keep those ears open and take it away. So every year we film a video for our Easter egg hunt, and every year it's a process. That's great. Yeah, I don't have time for this. These guys, every year, I got stuff to do. That's actually really smart. I like that. Exactly. People always say, Garrett, how do you understand him? I'm like, how do you not? We can't do that. It's a family event. Unless, is HR okay with that?
I don't even know what's going on.
Why was I even invited to that?
Every year, man. Join us on April 12th at Johnny Kelly Park at 10 a.m. for our annual Easter egg scramble. Make sure you bring a bag to collect all those eggs, and remember, it's a free event for all ages under 10.
And thank you for joining us this evening. If you have a story you'd like to see covered, send us an email at newstip@capemedia.org.
Stay up to date on all the local happenings by following us on Facebook and YouTube.
And make sure to tune in every Friday at 5:30 for more hyperlocal news that matters on Channel 26, Apple TV, Roku, and Fire TV. For Cape Media News, I'm Jamie Horton.
And I'm Rick Koontz.